Hello, everyone. This is Jim Okrasinski. Earlier in the week, I indicated that I would post up a screencast of my PowerPoint on Chapter 9. This is not a full lecture capture. I'm going to highlight some of the slides and talk about their content and how it might work in this particular unit. So, Chapter 9 is about correspondence and writing routine and sensitive messages. What we have here is an example of a correspondence or letter format with the appropriate information, like the letterhead at the top, the date of all correspondence in the inside address, the salutation, and then the body of the correspondence. Complimentary closing, signature, writer signature block, which would be name and title and email, and any end notations. We won't be working with any end notations, but please be aware of this pattern. One thing I want to point out, also on Chapter 8 in the email assignment, and I'll be grading those this weekend sometime, so look for some of the email assignment grades to be going out. Is how the sections are broken up in all the correspondence with ample use of white space, which allows for quick reading and comprehension. So make sure it's back of Chapter 8, Figure 810. Full block style letter with letterhead is the way we'll be working in our correspondence. All right, so Chapter 9, we're going to be writing multiple types of business letters in your career. General organizational principles behind the three basic kinds of letters. There's the routine and positive messages will be one form of correspondence or communication, which could include cover messages or transmittals, acknowledgments, inquiries, responses, sales, and promotion letters. So this particular chapter in assignment 2 will be focusing on inquiries and responses. And then we'll get to some bad news, a complaint letter. So here's an example of a cover letter, and we also have an email example of an acknowledgement. In writing inquiries, you want to make your questions specific, clear, and concise, and phrase your questions so that the reader will know immediately what the type of information you are seeking, why you need it, and how you will use it. It's always appropriate to present your questions in a numbered list, or at least using bullet points. Stacking information, or especially in requests or in responses, is a great way to present your information. It allows for quick reading and comprehension. Keep the number of questions always to a minimum so that people are not overwhelmed, and they will be more than likely to respond to your inquiry. Possible, offer an inducement to the reader to respond. Keep responses confidential, and close by thanking the reader. Always thank for inquiries, and take the time to respond. Provide contact information, phone number, email address, or if you are mailing or requesting something by mail, be sure you include your mailing address. So here we have a series of emails which represent an inquiry. As you can see, the way the sections are, and the text is chunked up in information. List of questions, reason for the request, offer, share results, and contact information. Allows individuals to take in inquiries and hopefully respond. Inquiry, you want to acknowledge this particular email is the acknowledgement of the inquiry, and that this request is being forwarded to an individual who can answer the inquiry. Remember, if somebody asks you to do something, find out if you have the authority to answer an inquiry, if you have the knowledge, or if not, refer to either higher ups or somebody who can answer the specific questions in the inquiry. So here we had Ms. Metcalf move things along to Michael Wang, who was the engineering assistant that was able to provide the specifications which is the answers to the questions and the inquiry on that project for a house, building a house. So I'm not going to cover writing sales letters because that's not a part of our assignment, but you can look through those bullet points. And I pulled a couple of examples from the textbook and inserted them into the PowerPoint. The next category is sensitive and negative messages, such as refusals, complaints, adjustments, collections. At the end of the chapter and at the end of this PowerPoint, you'll find a section on international correspondence that you may want to review. Always a challenge writing for audiences in other cultures. So the difficulty of writing a refusal depends on the stakes for the writer and the reader. And chapter 8, there was some information there where it mentioned direct and indirect patterns on how when you're delivering bad news you want to use an indirect pattern, and it was certainly in the case of the routine and high stakes refusals. As the stakes build, so does the need to increase your analysis of the situation and develop a strategy. Bad news is based on reasons that are logical or at least understandable. Somewhere along your business career, you're going to have to deliver some bad news to either a superior or a client that you rely on for a good portion of your living, and you want to be able to frame those just so they cause the least amount of damage, all right, in that bad news. So the context in the opening, introduce the subject, but don't mislead the reader that good news will follow. The explanation would be the next part of the section of the correspondence. Review the facts or details that lead logically to the bad news. Seeing things from the reader's point of view ties into that viewpoint. Hopefully you read about. Should have been a quiz question in there in chapter 8. State your refusal or negative message. Deliver the bad news based on facts, concisely and without apology. Do not leave any room to hedge in your language. Always be direct on that, and you're concisely and without apology. Yep. And also offer some goodwill in closing. Try to keep a relationship. If you can offer a solution, something that can substitute, or you can rectify the bad news in a short period of time, you always want to close and try to maintain a relationship. All right, so you have an email example for refusing invitations, a letter rejecting a job application, and then the email, figure 911, rejecting a sales proposal. All right, it's just some examples for you. Let's see, adjustments. We're not covering adjustments. Oh, and here's the one that you might want to take a look at, figure 9.9-13, complaint message detailing a billing problem. And your assignment number 2, you have to write a complaint letter to a Robert Mason about some booklets that were not shipped with the correct pages in it. So you want to be able to take a look at this particular complaint message to get an idea of how to format that assignment correspondence. I think that's part C in assignment 2. An adjustment letter as an example, and then like I mentioned, you can work through the correspondence for international audiences, and there's a nice draft you can take a look through and read about how on how this particular vice president composed a letter for an individual from another culture. All right, so I have some additional information toward the back, and then I believe on the weekend I'll cover assignment 2 in a little bit more detail, but this PowerPoint should be able to help fill in with some additional information over and above the textbook. If you have any questions or issues, please send me an email. Good luck.